Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another great episode of Bahrain Now, your source of local initiatives, happenings, talents, and trends. I'm your host, Khalid Hijris, here to walk you through our exciting lineup of segments and personalities from around Bahrain. So don't go away, we'll be right back. In contribution to the preservation of the environment and the accomplishment of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland Medical University of Bahrain recently inaugurated its solar energy project. And to speak more about what this project includes, we have with us here Managing Director of RCSI Bahrain, Mr. Stephen Harrison Murfield. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Khalid. It's a pleasure.
So could you tell us a little bit about where this project came from? How did it start?
Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, the history of the project goes back 7 years, and we had at the time three different considerations that we were looking at. One was we were kind of looking as an organisation how to become more efficient and save money, better processes and that side of things. The second, one of the critical things for RCSI Bahrain has always been about sustainability. We've been in the kingdom for nearly 20 years now, and we want to be fully sustainable just in terms of our future. So that was a consideration. And then the third area, which was probably the one that we had the most noise about, was the lack of undercover car parking at RCSI Bahrain. So we have a fairly significant student and staff base, and in the temperatures in the middle of summer, when you're kind of hitting 50 degrees and they have to go back to their car and it's not been undercover, there was a lot of complaints about how uncomfortable it was and everything else. So we were looking for a solution to all of these three things, and actually we started looking into solar power. And then if you fast forward to the 18th of May 2023 this year, we had the honour to have His Excellency Yasser bin Ibrahim Hamadan, the Minister for Electricity and Water Affairs, and other dignitaries coming to inaugurate the solar farm project. It was a fairly major milestone. We opened the campus in 2009, and it's the biggest development in our campus since then. And you know, for ourselves, it's an honour to be an early adopter of solar power, particularly in the higher education sector, both here within Bahrain and more broadly in the region as well.
Well, I mean, it's really amazing to see that you're actually taking, advantage of a natural resource that we have quite a lot of here in Bahrain.
Absolutely.
Now, I'd like to talk to you a bit more about the specifications of the project. How does it meet your electrical needs?
Okay, so I'll talk about the size of the project to start with. It was a 10-month project which cost around 1.5 million dinars. Now, obviously, there's an expectation for us to recover that amount of money. The life cycle for a solar farm is around 25 years. And we expect to get at least double that amount back in the longer term. But as I mentioned, we put it over the car parks, and indeed, as well as putting it over our existing car parks, we added an additional car park and covered that as well. So in total, we have covered 12,000 square metres, which provides us with 681 car parking spaces that are covered. And the number of solar panels in the implementation is 4,993, so nearly 5,000. What that means in terms of the size of the solar farm is that it's a 2.72 megawatt solar farm. I mean, I don't know if you're the same as me, but I don't really understand what that means. But what it means in terms of our electricity requirements, it generates 3.66 million kilowatt hours of electricity on an annual basis. So for us paying our bills, that's about 60 to 65% of our EWA energy charges on an annual basis. What we've seen, however, is that the forecasted numbers versus the actual numbers, the forecast has been very conservative, and so, for example, the May EWA bill this year was 90% less than it was last year, so that's a fairly positive move forward on that front. It's also had a massive impact, I think, in terms of our sustainability in the environment. So we've reduced our carbon footprint by 2,250 metric tonnes of carbon dioxide on an annual basis, and again, kind of contextualising that, that's like taking 927 cars off the road on an annual basis, which is fantastic. And one of the really kind of insightful things that the EWA has done is it's introduced a net metering system. So when people such as ourselves have a solar panel, a solar farm project, we will at times generate more electricity than we can consume. So you have two options in that. You can either net meter, which is what we do, which is we pass that back to the grid and it's used by other consumers. Or alternatively, you invest in large-scale battery banks, which A, adds to the cost considerably, and B, is also kind of environmentally unfriendly because it's very rare resources that you use to create that. But with the foresight of EWA, we've been able to enter into the net metering side of things. So we provide our excess electricity back to the grid at times when we're overproducing, and then at night we're given a credit for that electricity.
It's really cool to see how all of this comes like kind of full circle. And you know, I've always thought that, especially like universities and other, like any kind of educational establishment, is kind of like that. It feeds into like the wider ecosystem of the country or culture that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that standpoint, how important is it to RCSI as an establishment to push forward this idea of environmental sustainability?
Well, I think it's been important to us right from the very beginning. You know, RCSI is an Irish institution. Ireland is affectionately known as the Emerald Isle because it's very green. So for us, it's always been important that when we built our campus originally, that we created an oasis, shall we say, in a desert landscape. So our campus has got significant gardens all across the campus. And one of the things that we did when we built the campus in 2009 is we wanted to look at how we would make those gardens sustainable. So we have a grey water filtration system. So all of the water that's used on the campus on a daily basis is passed through to a filtration plant on campus itself, and then it's recycled through to create grey water. So grey water isn't drinkable water, but it can be used for the irrigation. Indeed, all of the irrigation across the campus is recycled water that's come from the campus originally. And it's also critical that for ourselves that we engage in sustainability across the community with our students and staff. So in 2019, we implemented what we refer to as the Reduce, Reuse and Recycle campaign. So we encourage the reduction of the use of energy, the reuse of cups and bottles and that side of things, and obviously on the recycling, whether it's paper, whether it's printers cartridges, whether it's IT equipment, to focus. And again, going back to the work that the EWA have done with us, we had an audit done through them back in 2016. And one of the things they recommended was that we just turned the air conditioning up 1 degree, and the actual impact of electricity use was disproportionately bigger than the kind of increase of the heat, and nobody really noticed it. And the other thing, throughout campus we have LED lights, which are much more energy efficient than traditional bulbs, and those are all set on or timers or sensors. So when somebody's not in a room, the lights are not on, and again it's very energy efficient from that perspective. We've also been delighted to enter into partnerships, for example with STC, where we've entered into a partnership for their Trees for Life campaign. So we've donated 5,000 trees that are planted across Bahrain, and we also in 2022 implemented our first eco-friendly pod. So these are study pods for the students that are on our campus that are entirely self-sufficient. So they have solar panels on the roof. In this particular instance, we do use the batteries so that they can use them through the evening as well. Been incredibly successful in terms of the uptake from students and that side of things. And looking at our immediate community in Muharraq, we work with the Muharraq governor and do a lot of work in terms of beach cleanup, so that we're taking plastics that have been disposed and taking them out of the environment and putting them back through for recycling. So really important from our perspective.
I mean, you guys have done such a thorough job. You've thought about it from every single angle. So, I mean, it is really incredible. And, you know, to go a bit wider, now, obviously, the world is moving forward to meet the requirements set by the social development, the sustainable development goals. And, you know, it is a group effort. It is, you know, the entire world is trying to meet these goals. How would you say that this project ticks the boxes for the requirements of the SDGs?
So, I mean, the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a superb framework to drive sustainability into the future. And the solar farm project obviously sits very squarely in SDG 7. So SDG 7 is about affordable and clean energy. So it's affordable because we'll make a recovery in terms of the investment that we've made, and it's clean because there's no fossil fuel that's used in there. So as I said, the solar farm is by far and away our biggest environmental project and sits firmly in SDG 3. But if you take in SDG 7, if you take SDG 3 in itself, which is good health and well-being, the Times Higher Education supplement in the UK announced last week its global rankings on SDGs, and RCSI in Dublin is actually the world #1 in SDG 3, which is good health and well-being. And obviously that reflects very much in terms of what we do. We're a healthcare education institution, so it's at the heart of everything we do. SDG 4, for example, is about quality education. And again, we'd like to believe that RCSI Bahrain has proven itself time after time, just in terms of the quality of our education. Our programme is recognised across the world. We have doctors and nurses working across the world. We have doctors and nurses working in 39 different countries. And I think, you know, the proof in terms of the quality of our product and the quality of our education is the employability of our students. So 95% of our graduates each year are employed within 6 months of graduating, which is a fantastic impact from that perspective. Looking at SDG 11, which is about healthy cities and healthy communities, very much focused on our memorandum of understanding with the Bahrain governor, which is focused on the World Health Organization, the WHO's Healthy Cities Initiative, and so we're working hand in hand to promote healthy lifestyles and that side of things. Indeed, just last year we were delighted to be one of the first universities in the world to be granted a WHO Healthy University status, along with 4 other universities here in Bahrain. And I think probably the one thing that we're really most proud of in terms of the SDG 11 is the work that we do with the Mobile Diabetes Unit here in Bahrain. So this is an initiative that is done in conjunction with the charity Diabetes Bahrain, and we go around to the schools in Bahrain and educate the students in the kind of 8 to 10-year-old age bracket about the risks of type 2 diabetes, and we use innovative kind of play to engage with the students to teach them the kind of things around healthy eating and active lifestyle that will help prevent future instances of type 2 diabetes. So again, you know, really solid in terms of that community element. And then in terms of SDG 2, which is about responsible production and consumption, well, I guess we come back to the solar farm in terms of that, you know, very much healthy, very much focused on responsible production and consumption. But it also speaks to our reduce, reuse and recycle campaign. So the SDG frameworks it's a fantastic way of helping us structure what we look to do in the future.
So it's really amazing, again, to see how everything fits together to carry this amazing job that you guys are doing, and this amazing effort for such a noble cause. And I want to go back to, for example, you were talking about the quality of education, and there's no doubt about that. I mean, RCSI is very well reputed. Mm-hmm. But I do want to ask you specifically for this project, how did you get the students involved?
So, I mean, in some ways it was very easy. I mean, we have 1,600 students, we have 200 staff. I suppose the really amazing fact across them is that they come from 50 different nationalities. So we have this kind of global makeup of our institution, and it's a real core element of our identity. And when you have such a broad multiplicity of nationalities, they come with such a hugely diverse perspective. And so it's fantastic in terms of informing strategy, but what you also then need to do is find different routes to be able to engage with the students and staff in order to do that. And RCSI Bahrain doesn't see our efforts in terms of sustainability as just one path and that fits everything. So we have numerous various things. So one of the things that we're very proud of is the International Community Engagement Initiative, which is RCSI Bahrain works with Operation Childlife, which is a charity set up by specialist surgeons. Our students and staff go to low and middle income countries and undertake operations that are life-saving and transformative in many ways. But in doing that, they're also experiencing healthcare systems that they've never seen before, and healthcare systems that are very different to what is here in Bahrain. Bahrain is a wonderful healthcare system, whereas low and middle income countries are more challenged in terms of resources. So it's fantastic for them to be able to kind of see the impact that they can have from that perspective. We have the International Citizenship Award, which is more of a reflective, cerebral kind of approach to sustainability, where we ask our students to reflect on what they've done and what they've seen and what they've witnessed in the healthcare system, and how things could be made better and how that might be different if it was in another country and another economy. We have the STEP program, which is the Student Engagement Program. And in the Student Engagement Program, students and academics work together and they put together projects that will impact and benefit the university. So they don't specifically have to be around sustainability, they don't specifically have to be around research or education, they can be on anything. But a number of those projects will have a sustainability element to it. We also have sustainability built into our curriculum. So the mobile diabetes unit that I mentioned earlier is actually part of the curriculum in the School of Nursing and Midwifery. In the School of Medicine, we have the Medical Commencement Programme, and one of the modules in the Medical Commencement Programme is a project that has to be done with a Bahrain charity. So our students work specifically with a charity and develop something that is meaningful and needed by them. We also undertake quite a significant amount of research which contributes to the sustainability side of things as well. And I think probably the one that we are most proud of currently is the work that we've done with the National Task Force here in Bahrain. I was here in Bahrain when the pandemic hit, and I have to say, compared to many other countries around the world, it did an exemplary job in terms of dealing with things. But what we did was we took the fantastic lessons that we learned and did research into it, which then informed the strategy for other countries as well. So again, adding to that sustainability and contribution to the environment.
You know, it's really incredible to see how this myriad of factors come together in your approach to education, healthcare, and even sustainability. And with all of these amazing activities and undertakings, what do you think is next for RCSI?
Well, I mean, for us, sustainability is it's not a destination. Okay, anybody that kind of thinks that they're going to get to sustainability and that will be it is kidding themselves. For us, it's a journey that's continual and ever evolving. The things that we do today on sustainability 10 years ago wouldn't have even been thought about. So we're constantly evolving from that perspective. And I guess if I look at what we're doing in the here and now, one of the big things for RCSI Bahrain is we're growing our current campus. So we're looking at building new academic buildings, which will triple the size of the campus in terms of the academic teaching facilities. And one of the things that we're doing in doing that is, as I mentioned earlier, we have gardens all around the campus, but we want to bring the gardens into the centre of the campus. We want it to be a real focal point. And so we're building a courtyard between the current academic buildings and the new ones, which will very much emphasise kind of mindfulness, tranquility, serenity, and provide healthcare education students who are incredibly under pressure all the time this kind of a real kind of oasis to be able to escape slightly from the day-to-day. In addition to that, we'll also expand our solar farm project onto the new buildings in order to ensure that we're generating the electricity to support that. We're also looking at building residences, halls of residence on campus. So a lot of our students live in the Busateen area, but as a result of having to live off campus, they have cars and that side of things. By building a residency on campus, A, we provide a much more convenient facility for the students to use, but B, we'll also reduce the number of cars that are there. And then finally, the one thing that we're looking to do, and I'm hoping, I hear many manufacturers are now starting to bring electric cars into Bahrain, and we want to move our fossil fuel fleet, our petrol fleet, out and bring electric vehicles into the campus. You know, it would be fantastic if we can have the cars on charge all day, taking from the solar power and then kind of use them through the night. So they're the kind of big projects that we're working on at the moment.
Well, I mean, I wish you all the luck with that. And I'd like to also ask you about Bahrain specifically. So, I mean, again, you've accomplished all of these amazing things, and there is so much opportunity for growth. And I think, especially in the Kingdom of Bahrain, there are so many opportunities. In your experience, how has the Kingdom of Bahrain provided you and your institution with the ability to basically develop these undertakings?
Well, I mean, if we go back to the very early days, back in 2003, 2004, when we were initially signing an MOU and opening our first campus, or it wasn't even a campus, it was a villa in Adelaide, but you know, the government has always been incredibly supportive. Organisations such as Tamkeen and EDB, 100% behind us, the Ministry of Education, the Higher Education Council, which wasn't there when we first opened, but was later incredibly supportive. So they've always driven the support for that. But I guess, you know, if we're talking specifically around the sustainability side of things, I mean, the Electricity and Water Affairs Ministry has been incredibly insightful in terms of developing its sustainable strategy. there's no two ways about it. We have a lot of sunshine here, so solar power makes a great deal of sense. And actually we have a lot of wind here, so I assume at some point in the future that we may see more wind farms. But their foresight to create an environment which has net metering, you know, for a lot of people, by not having net metering, it raises the bar to entry, so therefore it makes it a lot less attractive. I think probably the biggest issue that we've had in terms of making the decision to go for this project has had nothing to do with the fantastic support we've had from EWA, but the technology moves at such a rapid pace. So when we initially looked at this project 7 years ago, what we were expecting in terms of output, in terms of electricity, was far less than it is now, because every year to 2 years, the efficiency of the panels increases significantly. But there comes a time that you have to make a decision to invest and go forward. And as I say, the government have been incredible in terms of supporting that. EWA, and particularly the commissioning, because we've commissioned our project in different phases. They've always been there on time, they've connected us, and it's worked seamlessly. There's been no problems whatsoever.
It's amazing to hear, and hopefully you guys will achieve even more in the future. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, just thank you very much for having me here today. It's always a great pleasure speaking about RCSI, Bahrain and our activities. I guess probably the one thing, the one lesson learned, if I may, would be that these things don't happen on a whim, that they need a collective agreement and a collective amount of responsibility. And I think I've probably, if I'm being really honest with you, when I started my journey about environmental sustainability, it was more about what's the financial viability about it. But 7 years later, I think I'm probably a convert in terms of appreciating the importance of environmental sustainability. I have 3 children who are kind of in their late to mid-teens. I want them to enjoy the world that I've enjoyed, and we can only ensure that if we focus on combating climate change and environmental sustainability.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope to see more solar energy projects and a lot more sustainable energy undertakings here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with more. The Kingdom of Bahrain is home to many communities and personalities with just as many achievements. Today we are joined by Shahmin Islam, the president of the Pakistani Women's Association, to tell us all about her journey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Khalid.
So I know that you've had a lot of achievements and experiences with the association. Could you tell us how you got started?
So I got started somewhere in 2018 when I was invited to join the board as their PR and communications person. So I was in the board for 2 years, and the next time I was the president. So it's been 2 tenures since I've been heading the association.
And I know that for you, passion and intent in particular is very important.
It is.
How does intent drive your work?
I think I started in working for social causes and welfare causes, I think over a decade ago with Pakistan, with work in Pakistan. And I think that way I see that when I had the intent to do something, things would just open up for me. In terms of help that came my way to support those causes. And I think if you have a good intent in an organization like this, you satisfy yourself and then you help so many others.
Definitely, definitely. And going on to the theme of community, so you've been working with a lot of different people, right? And during your time in Bahrain, I'm sure you've been exposed to so many different types of people. How important is community to your
Community is very important, where be it any nationality. As a community in Bahrain, I feel we all must come together, empower women, help women, especially during COVID. You know, there were a lot of women who were struggling. Men lost jobs, women came up, and I think that thing was a very bonding them together, bringing them together was very important. You know, so I think your first question is, how do I feel about the communities? I feel everyone does come together here, and I want to see more of it.
And can you tell us a little bit about like what your day-to-day like operations are like?
So there's no hard and fast rule because it is all volunteer work. So you do get up in the morning, you have a vision for your day, you work on things. There will be days then I will just be working from literally a sofa, you know, phone calls, texts, connections. And then there will be days you go out, you have your meetings, you meet the team, you plan things, or you meet different people, you try to get into more collaborations. So I think it's very different. Each day is very different.
I can see that. And there's a lot of room for growth.
Of course.
Of
there
course.
Is, yes.
And how do you see the association growing in the future?
So I do wish that more women joined. A lot of women have. There's been much more interest. Our subcommittees are growing, alhamdulillah. And I would like to see more people join in, give their, you know, like a part of their day to the association. And I don't think it would require more than a few minutes even. Sometimes, for, as I said, for good intent, you just need a few seconds. Make a phone call, connect somebody to someone. You know, you can do that now, especially with all the technology, on being online, WhatsApp, so many different mediums. So I would encourage women to join in to help us grow further, and I want to tell them it's not very difficult. Yeah.
And I imagine that in your line of work, you probably see a lot of success stories. Is there a particularly rewarding story that comes to mind?
When you help someone and there is a message that comes at the end of the day, you know, that is your reward. Really, a prayer comes for you, or somebody writes something for you, somebody, and you know, even here, when you are helping people in need, their smile will say a lot. Last year we did a refreshment drive here, and it was very hot, and it was just a simple thing that we were doing. We were taking iced teas for people, and there were a few people, they were so excited, they were so happy with that thing that they've never had. For us, that would be a normal day to day, right? But for them it was like an occasion. And there was one sweet man who said, please take my picture, I'm so happy today. I mean, these things do give you, you know, goosebumps even.
I can imagine, and you know, especially when you're working with people.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can see their reactions. And speaking of people, I mean, I would love for you to give a message for anyone who's watching. What would the message of the Pakistani Women's Association be, or what do you want the women out there to know?
I think they need to know that they have immense capabilities. Even if they're housewives, even if they feel they have not worked in their fields for years, even if they are homemakers, especially homemakers have so much potential. So I feel that women need to explore that, and women need to empower themselves with new tools. Things have become easier as they were earlier. So, you know, if someone likes to learn something, it's much more easier to get that information. That would be my message, to know your capability, to have a goal, target, and those targets could be several. You know, it could be a business target, it could be just achieving that one good deed in a day. And no one, trust me, it's not because I head the association that I can do these things. I think everyone can. You start and things keep building up.
Yeah, that's very motivating. I like that. Anything else before we conclude?
Thank you for having me, and I really hope that through your show we can have other women join us and think about contributing more to society. And everybody does in their own ways, but I think together we're all very strong.
Definitely.
Yes.
Very well said. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Khalid.
So viewers, there you have it. Amazing work from the Pakistani Women's Association. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've made it to the finish line. A huge thank you to all of our guests for joining us tonight, and another huge thank you to all of you watching us at home. As always, be sure to reach out to us on our social media accounts shown below. We'd love to hear from you. This was Khalid Hijris, and until next time, good night and God bless.